Hey everybody, it's Christine. Welcome back to my channel. I'm here to do my weekly wrap-up. Again, I was going to do Friday Reads. Life. In a way I'll be in a way I'll be glad when school starts, in a way I won't, but it is what it is. So I only finished 2 books this week, as I've been kind of busy stitching actually. But the first one was Thunderstruck by Erik Larson, and I had read The Devil in the White City, and I gave it a 3. Yeah. This one I gave a 3 too. It was, for me, it was kind of heavy on the science, because it is describing Marconi. And I was wrong in thinking that he was murdered. It was just the dual timeline of when he was making his telegraph system and when this murder happened. I had not heard of this murder. It's with Dr. Crippen, and he changed jobs. He was constantly going to these like homeopathic remedy places, like, you know, cure the deaf, or cure your deafness with this tonic, you know, that sort of thing, in the early 1900s. And it was at the same time as Marconi, I said, was making his telegraph system, and he seemed to piss off a lot of people. Marconi was not a very nice man. He had no social niceties at all. He was very secretive, and other people were doing the same thing at the same time, and everybody was just focusing on him. It was kind of weird, but the first little bit, it was so heavily laden down with how exactly the telegraph worked, and after a while I was like, yeah, I get it, enough. So the murder that happened with Dr. Crippen, and I have a little caveat afterwards, but he was married to this woman that wanted to be a diva, and she couldn't sing worth diddly. She was one of those flamboyant people, and he was a very soft-spoken, quiet man. I don't know. It's hard to say anything really about it. It did a lot of Marconi's travels back and forth from Cape Cod to England to Newfoundland and back to England and back and forth, and they described his trips all the time. And yet in other instances they just sort of glossed over stuff. And I found that it was just kind of And then it wasn't sorry, an exact dual timeline. It kept jumping from the current time, or not the current time, like the very close proximity to the murder time, which happened in 1910. And then it would jump back to 1908 with Marconi, and then back to and it was just, and then sometimes it would jump back to, like, in a different paragraph, it would be 1908, and then 1903, and then 1910. It was jarring. So I only gave it a 3. It was interesting, but I think it could have been done better. And the reason they were tied together was because Dr. Crippen was the first man to be arrested via Marconi. And he was on a boat, and messages got through the Marconi telegraph to the boat that he was on. And so the detective from Scotland Yard jumped on a second boat and beat him to where they were landing in Father Point, I think it was. And so he beat him by a day, and it was arrested. So he's the first man that was caught via Marconi. Now, having said that, I did really quick research and found out that Dr. Crippen, 3 years after this book was published, they did DNA tests on the body that was found in the cellar of the house that he was living in with his wife. And they discovered that the body that was found was actually a male and not a female. His wife disappeared. Nobody knows what happened to her. And it kind of raises the issue, well, if it's a male, how did he get there? Who killed him? And if it, she disappeared completely, didn't take anything with her, what happened to her. So yeah, but that happened 3 years after this was published in 2009, and this was published in 2006. So kind of makes you wonder. And then the other book I finished was Finding Audrey by Sophie Kinsella, and I absolutely love this. I gave it a 5. I was reading 4 books at a time, or else I would have done this in one sitting. It was, in fact, I did 3/4 of it yesterday. I read about this much yesterday. It's about a girl who has this major event happen, and she's pretty much housebound. This happened at school, so she's housebound. She's not being homeschooled. She just left to kind of recover from whatever happened. So in order for her to feel safe, she has a very dark room. She only watches QVC because that's the calming voices. She wears dark sunglasses. And her brother is a major gamer. He plays this game named Land of Conqueror, something like that. And he plays it at all hours of the day. And their mother is insane. She's just, wow. They're all supportive of Audrey, but when it comes to Frank, her brother, her mother is insane. She's like absolutely, she throws his computer out the window. It's very humorous. It's very funny. But yeah, so her brother has this friend named Linus, and he comes over and scares the living dickens out of her. So she runs away, and he writes a letter to her and says, I'm really sorry, So Frank explained to Linus what is going on with Audrey. And kudos to Frank, because most boys would not stick around and try and talk to her and befriend her. Whereas he tries everything in his power to get her out of her shell. I wouldn't say shell because she is recovering from I would say a mental breakdown. You don't really find out. That's the one problem I have with this book. You don't find out what exactly happened to her. You just know a bunch of girls at school did something to her, and she loses it. So she is seeking a counselor. She's on medication. It is a very positive book, and so I really, really like how it ended, because it's not, I really don't want to say, but it's really cute. It's really funny. And it's towards mental illness is very positive. And there was something else I was going to say. Totally left my mind. But yeah, it is a very, really, very, really, really good book. And it was very well written. And yeah, it did have its funny parts. I felt bad for her, what she was going through. So, very good book. And so currently reading, my son is at camp today with my husband. My daughter had to work yesterday and today, so I stayed home. And then she ended up going out and staying at her friend's and going straight to work today. So I could have went out to camp, but there's tons of people out there and I didn't feel like sleeping in the back of a van. So we haven't read much lately in this, but it's The Hostel Hospital, and it's book 8 of Lemony Snicket's A Series of Unfortunate Events. And this one's okay for so far. Only about halfway through it now. So he's liking it. I think I like the last one better so far. We'll see. And I'm also currently reading The Winter Bride by Gracie. It's book 2 in the Chance Sisters romance. And I love this cover. It's so pretty. The camera's not doing any justice to it, but it is about Damaris and Freddie. And neither one wants to get married. He needs to get betrothed to get his mother off his back. He's a second son, but the first son died. And his parents have pretty much ignored him most of his life, and now because they need an heir to take over the earldom, I guess. Earl? I think, no, Lord Breckenridge, that's what it was. And so he needs to get a wife, or at least be betrothed, because he calls all the women that come up to him that want to marry him muffins, and he's tired of his mother thrusting the muffins at him. It's funny. So Damaris doesn't want to get married. She just wants a cottage. So she makes a deal with him to be his betrothed, get his parents off his back until after the memorial for his brother. That happens every year. Oh, itchy. And so she says, I will if you buy me a cottage. So he buys her a cottage and they're betrothed. So that's it so far. And then I'm also reading Susan Wittig Albert's Time of Death, and it's book 1 in the China Bales Mysteries. It's a cozy mystery. She is a former lawyer who now owns a, I'd say medicinal herb, but she doesn't sell them medicinally. She just, it's herbs and scents and stuff like that. So her friend who had cancer dies, and they think the inspector thinks it's suicide. And she has a long history with this other person that sells these dolls. They're called the strawberry berry dolls. And they've been acrimonious lately, I guess. And so Joe dies, and everybody thinks it's suicide. But her closest friends are like, no, she wouldn't do that. She's got all these plans. Even though she's got cancer, she's got all these plans to do stuff before she dies. So that's about as far as I've gotten. So what am I going to read? I wanted to read the monthly pick for Deadly Divas book club that Lisa from Books and Smiles does, and I couldn't get this month's book. It's got 3 holds on it. I think it was called Good Me, Bad You or something like that, and it's got like 3 holds on it, and so there's no way I was going to get it for this month. But Krista over Books and Jams, her book club is reading I Let You Go by Claire McIntosh, and I was able to get it, and I've been wanting to read this for a while, so I figured maybe I'll probably pick it up this month. So I don't know anything about it. I think it's just either a psychological thriller or a thriller, something like that. And I might pick up Act 1, Scene 1, Murder by H Richardson. This is book 1 of, I don't know why my camera is not working. Well, hopefully it'll continue. But anyways, this is book 2. I don't know what the series is called, but it is another cozy mystery. And I can't even remember. I remember it, but I don't remember the first one. I'd have to do a refresher, but I think it's a former theater actor and his friend that are the ones who are solving the mysteries. And yeah, so this was a review copy, and I'm hoping to get to it this month. Probably will. And I might read the 2 short stories and this book of the selection, book 4, Kira Cass, The Air. And I think the other 2 are, the 2 short stories. I keep forgetting. Oh, it's not going to tell me. Oh, there. The Queen and the Favorite. So, those 3 will probably get read. After that, I don't know. If I don't get to those, I'll probably get to my other ones. So, we'll see. But I have been doing lots of stitching. Been posting on Etsy. And I might have a book haul for you tomorrow. Or the day after. Because as you know, if you've been with me for a while, you know that at camp, and it's not our camp, it's my sister-in-law's camp. Well, actually, her boyfriend's camp. But they have a dump, and they have like a recycling reuse center where people who don't sell their stuff at garage sales drop it off so it can be sold. And it's whatever you feel like donating to the place that you pay for. So they have a habit of getting me boxes of books. So my son, the last time he went 2 weeks ago, he didn't get me any. This time he did. Or he told my sister-in-law to get some, and she grabbed some. So I don't know what's coming. I don't know if I have them already or what, but she just grabbed a bunch of books for me. So there's that. And if you've, again, been with me for a while, you know I've been having trouble with my hands. And I did go to the doctor. The one problem with my clicking finger is a shortened tendon, so I have to, let it alone when it does that. And then my wrist, it's carpal tunnel. So I have carpal tunnel in this wrist and this shoulder, and so I can't even put any weight or pressure on my wrist. It hurts too much. So it will be, right now, no more clips unless, well, I do have to cut them out for photos. So I will probably have one of each kind being put up. But I think the sliders that are on the back, people are not liking. So I might have to change, but there again, I have to make enough money to buy the die cutter to get the die cuts for the backing. So I'm kind of at a standstill with clips, but I still make the felties sheets that people can buy to make their own. So there's that. I think that's everything. I didn't expect this to go to 15 minutes, 16 minutes, but oh well. I hope everybody has a wonderful day. Let me know if you've read any of these books and what you're reading, and I'll talk to you later. Bye.